And that's with China building 30 of them. China's making a big play about trying to develop a hydrogen infrastructure around some of those reactors they're building in China to power vehicles off of and so forth. But
I'd love to see the upside in nuclear, but man, I'd love to.
I'm just telling. I
So
wasn't
hard to
pushing
do.
it.
I'd like to look at a computer model.
But like I said, there's a lot of different technologies for storage coming along. There's a lot of effort going into it because that's part of solving that oscillation problem too, is to smooth it out. These are all the regional issues we're sorting through. I talked about a lot of them. One that we're really focused on is this pancake and climate change taxes. So right now, because each state's doing its own thing, British Columbia passed a carbon tax up there about a year ago. And I'm responsible actually for these laws down here, but if you take one molecule of natural gas, it pays a carbon tax in BC when it's processed up to pipeline quality. It comes down to Washington State. If it goes through a combined cycle turbine, that turbine has to pre-mitigate 20% of its lifetime emissions up front. And then that same molecule, as it gets actually used, will have to pay either a carbon tax or a cap and trade type fee as it comes out the cooling tower. So that same molecule is getting hit 3 different times for the same amount of carbon footprint, basically. So that's an issue that if there's not a national standard or a North America standard, we're going to have to work out between the states and the provinces, which is why we need to have a national standard. One of the things about that graph I showed you about the amount of renewable projects in the pipeline, that was before the credit crunch hit. A lot of those projects have just come to a dead halt because there's no money for them to actually build those projects. And this is probably one of the biggest issues. I got a thing on here of just what people can do. One of the most frustrating things for me representing you down in Olympia and trying to work on stuff like this is that a lot of these new technology companies, a lot of these newer ideas about how to do what we've been doing for years, they don't have lobbyists. And unfortunately, when we have things like renewable portfolio standards come up, climate change laws, it just seems like everybody that has a lobbyist comes in and gets what they want out of the legislation, and then the people that don't have enough money or not are still working on their technology and aren't even caring about government, don't have anyone representing them, and they get left out. And I think that's just one of the biggest problems we face today in this area about that's keeping us from doing the right thing. That tax bill I talked about that we got renewed was very, very, very frustrating. I was going to vote against it, even though I was the original sponsor of it in the end, just because they did things in there like qualified 30-year-old biomass projects, which is basically burning wood chips, and then not qualifying new microhydro, which is some of the most fish-friendliest stuff that's ever been built. They took old turbine efficiency upgrades where you go to an old dam and replace the turbine inside of it. So in essence, you're rewarding some of the most fish-unfriendly dams. They qualify that in for the tax breaks and for the renewable portfolio standard, but not the cleanest, most fish-friendliest stuff. That stuff's just been killing me, that type of inconsistency in what we're doing. And that's just because somebody's got a lobbyist down there who's pitching that, and it gets to be very, very difficult because someone's full-time job is just to get that into a piece of legislation. Probably the biggest thing I'd just say is that groups that support the American Wind Energy Association, there's a group called Solar Washington. Boy, those folks need help. I mean, they're trying to fight their fight for some of this better technology, and they don't have the resources that the big guys do. And
who are the big guys?
Well, I mean, one of the frustrating things that happened is that there's a group that used to become a bit more environmentally based in their lobbying efforts. They become so dominated by the wind turbine manufacturers because the wind turbine guys are making tons of money now. They were just pushing in for 100% tax credit for the wind turbines and nothing for anybody else. The field always changes as the industry matures. And the wind folks have become so dominant in the renewable area that they're starting to unfairly, they're not purposely trying to punish the other renewable guys, but they're not out there advocating for them, I'll put it that way.
You have to make that 7 ferry.
Yeah, I probably need to go, so.
You wanted to say something about
I'll come back next time. Straight up.
So I drone on and on and on here, and I know, you guys don't normally talk about energy, but Supporting groups here that are going to help advocate that message down there is just crucially important. Our legislative sessions are more like drive-by shootings than they are deliberative, thoughtful, sessions about trying to figure out what to do, just because we have such a short time that we meet. If someone isn't down there advocating for certain points of view, then they do get left out. So I guess my bottom line message is that we've done a lot of great things to push these areas forward. The interconnection standards, I'm really trying to do as much to promote as much self-generation as possible. I've learned a lot just through doing my own solar system. My goal was to do 1/3 of my own consumption. And I probably have done as much on conserving my own use as I've generated from my solar system just as I started tracking it.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Is there, are there any projects or any plans to allow individuals, like all the people in this room, if they're willing to take responsibility for their own, for a portion of their own energy generation, and they come up with a plan, okay, I'm going to take 25 or 40%, is there any state agency or funding to help people do that?
There's an unprecedented amount of money starting to be pushed out right now because of the American Recovery Act. Matter of fact, it's so much, I'm a little concerned it's not being pushed out in a real constructive manner.
Yeah.
But there's a variety of programs to help buy down some of the cost. One of the things that I fought for and didn't get in the end was the Lopez co-op project over there, where they're doing the solar system over on Orcas Island. For some reason, the way the language was written up in the Senate didn't qualify for the tax break because it wasn't a utility-owned facility. It was a non-utility co-op or something like that. There's all sorts of grants out there that will help buy down some of the cost of some of these projects. I'm working on a couple now for a couple of combined heat and power projects, which is using gas off of digesters and using that to generate electricity from, and then hot steam that goes back into the sewage treatment plants and so forth. There's some grants out there for those right now. If you go to the American Recovery Act site or the CTED Energy site, and you can email me, and I'd be happy to send those links to you. And they're posting, as they get ready to push money out, they're posting how they're pushing the money out to do stuff like that.
Can you put links on your site?
I may have them on my legislative site. I'll check on it when I get back tonight. So
What's the email?
it's MORRIS_JE at leg.wa.gov.
LEG.
It's leg.wa for Washington.gov. And if for some reason it doesn't go through, if you go to the state, you just put House of Representatives, and you can go to my website. It's listed on there. You can find Morris and.
You have this presentation there on your website?
Yeah, I'll email it back to somebody.
You got Phil's card, didn't you?
So,
Phil gave you his card.
yeah, I did. I emailed it to Phil.
Yeah.
You can distribute it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
for
a lot.
coming.